So today I'm joined by a guest that has a special place in Irish history. He was the first Irishman to ever play in the NBA in America. And I'm glad he's joining us today. It's Mr. Pat Burke. How are you doing, Pat?
Well, I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. So I suppose we'll kick into the world at the moment. And what have you been up to?
I'm a family man, so I've got 3 children, and it's no news to anybody that we're living in crazy times right now, especially America with the politics going on, the pandemic. But just come on out of the Christmas holiday, New Year's, and a bit of an injury. I think I was telling you earlier that I just hurt my back. I guess I'm getting old. Father time is starting to set in. But yeah, not a whole lot. I'm in my late 40s now and enjoying life. I have twin boys that have just finished high school here in the American school system, so they're now in the world of employment and getting jobs and looking to start their lives. And I got a little girl who's 12, and she's doing well. And just try to keep the family safe and sane and entertained all at the same time.
Is there any of them that have gone down the sporting line?
My boys did. They started training about 9 years old with me with basketball, and we really enjoyed the training aspect. I opened up a facility and an academy for a while. They were really enjoying being around the club system and competition. They've continued it somewhat in recreation. One of them is actually over in Ireland, enrollment-wise at Limerick Institute of Technology, LIT.
Okay.
And with the pandemic, he's actually back home right now with no real understanding of when it's all going to continue just at the moment, which is for safe keeping up. But my little girl, she's starting to get into volleyball a little bit. So so sports has played I'd say a pretty big role in their lives as youth. And my wife and I, we've enjoyed being a part of it and seeing it from this side.
And you were born in Dublin and grew up for a while in Tullamore. Is that true?
Yeah, I was actually living in Tullamore. My family and I were living in Tullamore. My dad's from Mayo, a little town, Carramore, just out of Claremorris, County Mayo. And my mom was from Tullamore, and so we were all living there. And I guess it's kind of an Irish story in a way that somebody in my father's side, Mayo, was nearing the end of their days. Let's say they were nearing death, and so there was only one hospital at the time in Ireland that was inducing pregnant ladies for early delivery. So they wouldn't miss the funeral. My mom and dad decided they would go into Dublin, go to the Coombe, and have me so that they could make it in time, just in case something was to happen.
And when you moved to America, how long after then did you become involved in sports?
Relatively fast. I've had interviews before where people asked, what was it like, for an Irish family, learning and understanding American culture. But there's so much coming at you. I remember I was in my kitchen, and my aunt on my dad's side, she came over with my cousin David. He and I were schoolmates, same grade and everything. And she had said she had just signed him up for ice hockey of all sports.
Yeah.
And I remember as she said it, kind of the explosion of kind of curiosity and riddled effect of like, what are you talking about? When she said the words ice hockey, that my whole family was like, what would you be doing with that? What business would you have doing that? And I remember I said, yeah. And so I was probably about 6 or 7 years old, and started up playing ice hockey and played that for 8 years.
And when did the basketball come calling?
There was couple of things there. There was a growth spurt that occurred right around 14 years old to 15. I grew about 7 inches. I really grew them in one summer. We actually moved around that point in my life. We moved from one town to the other. And so I wasn't really paying attention to what my body was doing. I had no idea that I had grown the 7 inches in that time. And it was more of the outside influence other than my family who was telling me, you should try basketball. You definitely have the size for it. And I just listened at first, and I was listening to people say it to me, whether it was teachers or my fellow students or classmates. But the first year, that was my freshman year, not my ninth year of school, and I didn't take on their advice. And then the next year, I was another 2 inches taller, which I was 6'7" then at 16, and the advice then started pouring in daily. It was just, you really should do this. You should do this, and that's when I decided to get a pair of tennis shoes on and go join the kids in the gym.
And did you find that you had a natural connection to it, or did it take a while for you to start liking the sport?
I'd say the only natural thing I had at the time was curiosity. I was complete shit when I touched the floor. I just, I had spent 8 years in the ice hockey equipment, so I had mastered a number of skills inside of that. But outside of competition and maybe understanding team and what goes on with team sports, that's the only thing I translated from ice hockey. Everything else, I was absolute just miserable. I couldn't dribble the ball, couldn't shoot the ball. Just an awkwardness, not only for being that height, not being used to it, but not knowing where to go, not really understanding the strategy. Yeah, you put the ball in the hoop, but there's more to it than just that.
So you have to learn tactics and different elements of the game.
Yeah. You have to, you really have to break it down. And I've said this over the years, and I've been adamant about this. It takes, at that point, being so far behind, it takes a certain type of mentor or leader to take that type of progression, because you have to dissect it. There's a little bit of understanding what the person wants to break down, and then there's a little bit of understanding what's the necessity of breaking down, kind of in phases and not leaving expectations too high. And sorry to say, but that first year that I joined, I didn't have that type of leadership. I had a complete asshole who was in front of a kid at 6'7".
Yeah. In between playing basketball in America, when you played, there was a lot of basketball that you played in Europe as well.
Yeah.
What was did you find there was a big difference between the style of play between the European game and the American game?
Yeah, there definitely was. It's interesting is if you take all the rules and the measurements of a 10-foot hoop and the ball and the length of the floor, they're all pretty much the same. And then you take the idea of five people versus 5 people, it's all the same thing, but the mindset is different. It's funny, is you think you're going in to play the same thing, but the first thing I found out was the game was slower and was more tactical. And the tactical side of it, I'm not just talking about just the strategy of breaking down plays, but there was more of a tactical understanding that, hey, shot selection this is 5 guys and we're all working for one good shot. And if you're not a part of that, you won't last long.
Because I was looking through some of the teams you played for in Europe, say Panathinaikos, Gran Canaria, Real Madrid. Must have been all great weather for those ones.
Yeah, those are very, very good teams, very good weather. There, a lot of great memories there. But those are great clubs.
Was Gran Canaria on the actual Gran Canaria island?
Yes, yeah, it was. Yeah. It was on the shady side. So there's 2 sides to that island, and it was funny because when I was signing that contract, I think my agent had boasted it was a little more like Club Med. So I thought I was going to be coming in with a bathing suit and a bit of suntan lotion to go play there for the year. And when we landed, I realized that we were on the actual side where the residents had picked it, and it was centuries before they picked this site specifically because it had more shade on this side, and the other side of the island was the part that was the sunny side of it for the tourists. So it was interesting not to understand that until I landed, and then you got there and you're just sitting there like, what the fuck?
I've been there a good few times on holidays.
Yeah,
and it's a really good place. Like, but it's really party orientated, particularly from
sure.
say the English and Irish people going over there.
Sure. Yeah,
But
I made it to the other side of the island a couple times. Yeah, it was.
there's plenty of Irish bars there as well.
Yeah,
Because they're doing well now. Their football team, now they've since been relegated, but their soccer team got promoted to the big leagues in Spain as well,
wow,
not so long ago. So last season, the likes of Barcelona and those big clubs were visiting Gran Canaria as well.
that's good. Yeah,
Yeah, it was good for them.
The Spanish have a definite love for sports.
Where do you think was the best place you played in Europe? Was your favorite?
I don't have one that's the specific, because each of them presented something that was unique in itself. Like, I'd say the culture in Greeks, in the Greeks culture, it was more of a passionate, very proud people that it's like they live in the moment. They're ready to celebrate. They're ready to lock the doors to their businesses and go out all night and sip ouzo and drink at the tavernas. But and then if their sports are something of great passion. All. And I would say that they press the limits of their involvement. Here in America, it's like fans are just whistling and booing and howling and this, that, and the other. But over in Greece, it's like throwing water bottles and batteries and coins out on the court. It's almost like they think it's their right because they were. But then then I go back to Spanish basketball again. Is the culture was again, there was a lot of passion involved in that too. I really enjoyed my time in the north, in the Basque region. Also, Madrid was very special. The Polish experience was wonderful too. It took a little while to how would I say, get a footing or getting an acceptance in that town, because I lived very close to our gymnasium where we practiced. I walked to work. I loved it, and I went through the little marketplace. And I'd say it took at least 3 months before anybody trusted me even to say hello. It was like, I don't mean any harm. I'm playing here for the local team, but you couldn't get, I'd say good morning, or as I walked by, and people would look the other way. But after a while, they started to accept it. It was a wonderful experience. Russia was also, I'd say Russia was probably the most difficult of all the places. Now, there were some good parts about it, but there was a lot of parts that were very rough.
And of course, when you were in these countries, like in Europe, you would have spent a lot of time away from home. Was that difficult?
Yeah, the last 2 years have been the most difficult. Like going in the full stretch of it. The first year when I played in Spain, coming out of college, I was living with my brother. He came out with me, and just that first shock of just being away from home and knowing you're going to be there for an extended period of time, that was a challenge at times. Then the Greece part of it, just being a newlywed and heading to Greece, that's one of the most difficult languages in the world to pick up. So that was a lot of relying on other people when we got there. Then, of course, when I finally was towards the twilight of my career, after the Phoenix Suns, I went to Russia and Poland. At those 2 moments, I had my kids, my wife, and they didn't come over with me. And I'd say that was nearing not only the end and knowing I was getting old enough, but it was nearing the end of kind of weighing in the option: is this worth it or not anymore? Am I enjoying this enough to continue on? And by the time I got to that last year, the 12th year of playing, and I was in Poland, and my wife and my 3 kids were at home, I knew I was done.
Yeah. With Orlando Magic, anyway, there's always the one story that you get asked all the time. So, you'll have to tell me about, or else I'll get slaughtered, about the Michael Jordan
Oh,
story.
the Michael Jordan story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sure you're not sick of answering this at all.
no, I'm not. I promise I'm not. It's because
Okay.
it's one of those things that it's funny because it's only about a minute of actual playing and being there, but it's pretty much the length there of my career building up and leading to just that moment of being able to be on there at court and playing them at the time. So, I came out of college undrafted, played 5 years in Europe, make the Orlando Magic, and at that time, 02, 03, it's Michael's farewell season. And I remember the first time I saw him, the first time I played, it was in Orlando, and I'm looking across the gym, and I just couldn't believe like there's Michael Jordan in person, and I'm not being hauled off by police to get out of the way. It's like I'm part of this organization that's playing. So the second game occurs, the third game. After the third game, I thought to myself, geez, this is his farewell tour, and we're only going to get one more time. So I kind of, how would I say, mustered up the gall to go up to Doc Rivers and just ask him. I said, hey, Doc, if I know I'm not on the rotation right now, but if it comes down to 20 points up, 20 down, could I get in and say that I played Michael Jordan? And Doc was with his raspy voice, and he's like, "You've never played Michael?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't." He's like, "Okay, I'll see what I can do." So I was like, "Geez, there's hope. There's hope there now."
Yeah.
So I got to the game. It's halftime, and some of the 50 greatest are inside the arena, and they do a whole tribute to Michael. His highlights are going on. The lights are off, and they're showing all this wonderful stuff. And then when the lights come back on, some of the 50 greatest, are all there. They're standing ovation for Michael, and then they end the halftime, and he goes in, and we go in, and so then of course at the end of the game, I think they're up by 20 something, and the clock is winding down, and I remember just thinking to myself, geez, I'm not going to get in. And then I heard Purvis call my name. And so I ran over to the table, and he's like, okay, here you go, you can go in. So as I'm going to check in, Morris, I'm checking in at half court, and Michael's inbound the ball. It's Wizards ball right there at half court. So I'm getting to the timetable, and I'm saying number 31, checking in, and I look out on the floor, and I'm seeing that all my teammates have picked somebody up, all the 4 remaining Wizards that are out there. So then it hits me, I'm guarding Michael. And I'm like, what in the hell am I doing here? Like, this is the mismatch of the century. So I turn over to him, and I was like, oh, I guess I got Mike. And I'm saying this out loud, and just out of habit, with the sports. So when I turn to him, Michael looks at me and he says, well, just don't hurt me, big fella. And I say to him, I said, yeah, Michael, you're going to do whatever you want to do. And so we inbound the ball, and then I'm bumping into him, putting my elbow up against him, and he gets the ball there at the elbow at the extended free throw line, and he passes the ball, and I think there's a block shot. It goes down the other end. We have a couple of shots taken down at the other end, and then we're coming back, and I'm thinking, okay, that was just a mismatch. Now we'll fix this. And as they come down, of course, then I notice all the guys have picked up the same guys, and I'm at half court, and I'm turning around. And as I'm turning around, it was like being in a Gatorade commercial or something. I've got Michael Jordan, and he's coming up to me as cool as can be, chewing the bubble gum, drove the ball, slow motion. And I was kind of one of those, I pinched myself like, this is amazing. And then shortly after that, the horn blows, and they're giving the tribute for him to come off. And, I was next to him and just cheering for him was going on. I've held that story now. Now, this is crazy. I've held that story since 02, 03. And I was telling that story to campers and my family and all sorts of people. And I was telling it to an Irish journalist, I think last year. And finally, he sends me the video. He says, hey, I found it. I could never find the video.
Oh, you've got the video.
Oh, I got the video. And I'm telling you, I'm proud of myself for this. Didn't embellish it a bit. Just told it exactly how it was, just like that. And I could talk you through the same way I said it, and you'd watch the video, you'd be like, geez, this is actually happening just the way he said it. And so it's funny, as after it came out, I put it up on social media. And a number of my family had never seen the video, never saw, they heard the story. And they came up to me, they said, Jesus, we always thought you were full of shit. It actually happened. And my
I haven't
jaw
seen it yet.
dropped. Like, why would I have the gall to make up a story like that? And they, until they saw the video, then they started to believe me. Like, holy shit, that actually happened. It's crazy.
I haven't seen the video. I must check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a more personal thing that you've done is Hoops Life. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. I mentioned earlier that I was fairly late coming into the sport, and I think I took on a lot of not any type of sorrow or therapy session, but I think I took on a little bit of emotional scarring with this coach that I had the first experience in basketball, because he told me all the time who I wasn't, what I couldn't do, who I was never going to be, and without me knowing, I was a laughing joke of the team. And I carried that with me. And that first year, we moved my family from Cleveland, Ohio, where he was, down to Southwest Florida. And I completely walked away from the sport. Didn't want anything to do with it anymore. Once I knew kind of what the reaction was everybody was having towards me, I just thought to myself, well, there's no point in that, and it's not worth all the embarrassment. So I met the new coach down there, and I kind of gave him a rough go at meeting me and his attempts to kind of ignite me again. He did it in a way, though, that to this day I still think it was masterful. It was just kind of like, hey, what do you want to do with your life? What are you thinking about this? And what are you interested in? And he asked me a number of questions. And the reason I say that is because he was enrolling me without me knowing it. He was building confidence and comfort with it, with this approach that was just asking questions and having me kind of be the author of my own vision. And so when I was done playing, after this whirlwind playing 12 years, a kid that, kind of ran the gauntlet of probably the best luck anybody's gone through, with a lot of hard work, a lot of just igniting his own motivation, I think I was able to inspire a lot of people. And I decided when I was done, I was like, I want to start working with kids. And my major was actually in communications. I was thinking about getting into some sort of radio broadcasting or something like that. So I was actually doing that with the local, not the local, my university basketball team at the time. And a friend of mine asked me, do I ever train kids? So long story short, I started training kids in my backyard. There was about 20 some kids, and I decided to open up a training facility, to make a small investment, let's say, into this. And that first year of it was one of the most stressful years of my life. Anybody who's ever owned a business, started a business, they know, probably all of the different roles you take on, and a lot of them were unequipped at them. So I was doing everything from the marketing, the accounting, the enrollment, the sales, the cleaning of the equipment, and doing all the training. The one thing that bothered me the most was I realized I was extremely ineffective at having the kids take away any sort of transformational application. I wasn't changing the way they were playing. I was just more or less going through exercises, and I became very upset with myself. Like, what am I not getting? And at that time, I had one of my clients, one of the mothers. She came up to me and she started to speak to me about an opportunity to do it in a different way. And the first conversation was a little whimsical. It was a little bit of, okay, yeah, okay, I would love to do it that way, but I'm very busy. I got to get back out here and train the kids. So she approached me about 3 times in this way, and then that third time she came up, she kind of spoke in a way that enchanted me that there was another way. And I told her, I said, wherever you're going with this, I'm coming. And she brought me to her place of business. That there was I don't want to say the Dalai Lama or the guru of leadership, but there was a gentleman there who had taken a bit of knowledge about how humans learn and had shared with people how to get to their next level. And he did this in a way so proficiently that he was changing people that at the end of their course, their 9-week programs, they were talking about millions of dollars they were making, the number of hours they were saving during the week, the number of weight they had lost, all these different things. And so I went through the program, and I was, it was once a week going into this class. And every time I came out of it, I was either hysterically laughing, it was either hysterically crying, or I was very pissed off. And this kept going for about 9 weeks. And then finally I hit a point where I couldn't believe a lot of the stuff I was able to achieve because of the way I was doing things before. Just what didn't make sense anymore. So I approached them about working with them. And I asked them, I said, what if we could do what you do with business people and adults? What if we could do that with kids through basketball? And for the next year, I worked with them in creating curriculums that took an introduction of the game of basketball, because without getting too far beyond this, it's like saying basketball is just an activity where there are 5 people playing 5 people, and there's a goal in which they are looking to achieve. And when they're new into doing this, sometimes their patience level, their respect, their maturity will show itself in that point in time. Where is it? And that's where we truly want to help them. And so that program was 12 weeks long. What we were doing was allowing the children to see how they were reacting to things, and then having them figure out what do they want to achieve in a program that did something like this. So not only were the kids obviously getting better at basketball, but they were improving themselves. And so everything from getting on the honor roll, changing behavior, a lot of chaos that was happening at school, at the home, it was all completely starting to change, and it was because of this program.
Wow, it's impressive.
Yeah, it was the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Yeah, because you just say, like, you change it from just a game. It's almost like I won't say change their life might be too big a thing, but just change their approach to life, maybe.
That's it. Yeah, and it was the ability to help them on their approach to their choices, and to make them cognitive of what they were doing in the moments. So instead of kids just running into a room, chasing the balls in the corner and going and playing and taking half-court shots, and that the kids would actually walk in the room, create awareness of who was in there, go up, say hello, meet and greet, and then take the opportunity to go and then get the ball, do things, just little things. But their self-awareness had completely changed. Their ability to self-reflect was starting to start up. So these new wheels that were always there in their heads were starting to crank. And when they did, one of the probably the most rewarding things was parents were getting very emotional, because parenting, of course there are books, but a lot of times people don't take the time to read books, and people have enough ego inside of them to not take advice. So a lot of people were realizing the changes were coming, and the only time they started was when the program started. So they were getting very emotional. They were coming up to me and they were saying, I know now that I'm not doing this. I know that I'm not creating this at home. So, Pat, what is it you're doing, and can you teach us how to do it too?
I've got a question here from a guy in Dublin. He plays basketball. I think he's 19. Jack Walsh from Wacker Clothing. He was like, "Do you pay any attention to the Irish Super League?"
I do. You do. I would say in general. Now I don't watch stats and players, but I have noticed that the popularity of the game has gone way up, and that's probably the thing that excites me the most. I think that Ireland is right there on the cusp. Now, of course, there are young men and women getting scholarships and they're playing pro, but I think that as that continues and more, the conversation then becomes more commonplace for people to take basketball more seriously. There are schools and academies that are training, but I think that they're going to become more and more opportunities now, because they see that that Ireland has always loved sports. But now they're seeing that there's a future to it, and basketball is creating that venue.
I don't think basketball has peaked in Ireland yet.
Yeah, no.
And on that, is there any Irish players coming through that you think we could expect to see stateside?
I was watching a young man that's in Louisville. His first name escapes me now, but he was a phenomenal player when he came out. I know that he had spent some time in New York, I think like his last 2 years of high school, and now he's at Louisville. But I'm watching to see what he's going to do. Then, just my time, I was there. I was in Ireland about 2 years ago. I think I was watching about 250, I think there were 14-year-olds, 250 14-year-old boys and 250 girls at the academy level playing. And I was pleasantly surprised with the level of play they had. But more than that, going back to like the hoops life part of it, I was more enamored by their life skills. Like there wasn't any, there wasn't the same, well, there was nowhere near the same amount of immaturity that goes on here stateside. Yelling at referees, yelling at teammates, disrespect to the coach. You didn't see any of that.
That was probably in the National Basketball Arena in Tala, was it?
No, it was just outside. I think it was a Morgantown or something like that. It was an academy.
Okay. Yes. So to wrap things up, then, what does the future hold for you?
It's a great question. Again, we're in very, very strange times. I've in 2018 I closed our academy, and in that time I've been to Ireland twice working with Irish basketball. I've been to Panama. I've had a number of different people reach out to me about opportunities to work with them. So I'm kind of weighing options. Yeah. Basketball, I still do have a passion for it. I think my passion has always been, helping youth. But right now, I'm not exactly sure where I want to go, what direction I want to move. I really think that what motivates me is when I'm a part of something that I believe in, that's actually creating change or creating a service that, again, goes back to the transformational service, something that it's actually helping people to get to where they want. So I'd love for it to be a part of basketball, but I don't know. I don't know what's next.
Things are too uncertain at the moment, I guess, to answer that question, really. Yeah. But it was great chatting to you anyway, and thanks for coming on. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And all the best.
All the best to you. All the best to the listeners. Continue to strive forward and work as hard as you can. And I always tell kids to write down your strengths and write down your weaknesses and look to work on those, because I think that's the best way to become a complete player.
Cheers, Pat.
All right. Cheers. Thank you.